Hi, my name is Brian Chalabois, and I'd like to interest you in a new style of car racing. It involves real cars with a 365-degree view in an arcade-style format. With this type of system, you would be combining two popular long-standing games, remote control cars and video car racing. I understand that Namco America has done research into this kind of game. You must have thought it would be popular. I think so too.
So I built this system.
It's obvious why this doesn't work. It's like trying to drive with no side or back windows and only a little peephole for a frontal image. It's almost impossible to see other drivers. Computer games compensate for this by giving you an overhead view of the car and track. The further you move away from the driver's point of view, though, the less you feel like you're driving a real car. In my system, we don't need to compensate, and we can put you back in the driver's seat. Here's how. To start, we need a swiveling camera mounted in the driver's position of the car and is controlled by the position of the player's head. For the home version, a helmet will have to be developed similar to a virtual reality helmet, but incorporating the cathode ray tube rather than the traditional LED screen. Similar equipment has been developed for Army assault rifles and pilot training systems. For the helmet to control the direction of the camera in the car, one possibility is to connect a speedometer cable from the top of the driver's helmet to a directional sensor on the back of his chair. From what you've told me about your research, people don't like to wear a helmet worn by the public. So in the arcade style game, to get the same effect without the helmet, we start with your standard car cockpit. Instead of just having a screen in front of the driver, we need to create a screen that will go all the way around him. I feel that the best way of getting the image onto the screen is by using a projection style TV mounted directly above the driver's head that would swivel in conjunction with the driver's head, keeping the image always in front of him. The next question you are probably asking yourself is, how does the TV and camera know the position of the player's head? Well, I'm sure that there are computer programs available out there that can recognize objects and their position. Using this kind of programming, I'm sure that we can come up with a system that can tell the direction of a person's head. But this will take more research. Besides the visual aspects of this game, we can incorporate many of our other senses in ways that computer games can only try to simulate. By strategically placing 4 microphones within our car and 4 speakers within our driver's cockpit, we can perfect real, live, quadraphonic, on-location sounds, such as engines revving, cars passing, bumps and crashes. This is important because hearing is our second strongest sense. Our third strongest sense is touch. Pressures on the car's steering system fed back to the player's steering wheel can help to stimulate this sense, as well as bumps and vibrations from the track that are monitored in the car and then sent back and translated in the cockpit. Now about the track. I would suggest that we span the track above the ground and surround it with canvas. This way when cars crash or lose control, they'll fly off of the track and onto a conveyor belt below. This belt will carry the cars back to one end of the track, where the attendant can pick them up and place them in the starting position. Thus, we only need 1 or 2 attendants for 5 or 6 tracks. The track should be divided into sections, each one capable of pivoting to clear cars off of that particular section, and also to clear all the cars off at the end of the race. This is important because we may choose to make very large tracks and allowing for very high speeds. With the new cable internet capability for live video, one central track can service an unlimited area, allowing for players from different communities to compete together. When marketing this game, we should consider the popularity of pitching bar against bar in competition. This would limit the racing to experienced drivers only, making for an even level of play. In the future, we would rate the players and keep a record of their skill and ability, so that we can create many levels of play. Then players can progress and always be in a challenging racing situation. At this point, we can introduce younger players at lower levels, at malls, arcades, and etc. Besides racing, players can also do timed lapses in preparation for their next competition. We may not be able to have racing on demand, but like any real sport, they would have to wait for openings in the schedule at their skill level. Properly keeping up with demand should limit waiting for track time. If a situation occurs where there are not enough drivers at a player's level, he may be handicapped and allowed to continue with lower level players. I've only described one form of racing that I feel is the easiest to start with. In the future, many types of motorized vehicles will be possible, including dirt racing with cars and trucks, or even boat racing, or even tank battles. The possibilities are unlimited. As our technology improves, so will the quality of this game, making for an increasingly rising level of play. Eventually, people will even own their own cars. In the future, all robotics that are controlled via remote control will have to have a similar visual system to ours, so that the camera moves in conjunction with the operator's head. For example, bomb squad, police and fire department robotics, and even unmanned submersibles. I'm sure you can see that this game exists in theory only, but since we are using accessible technology, I believe it is a viable product. I think it's safe to say that this game is far superior because the technology allows the player to drive a real car from the driver's point of view. It involves more of his senses, and the graphics are perfect because they are real. A computerized video game can only simulate driving, whereas this is the real thing. Simulated explosions and crashes may be important in the competition between computerized video games, but in this game the possibility of recovering from an accident is far more involving and exciting than having a computer take control out of the player's hands. I hope that the possibilities of this game are as exciting to you as they are to me, and I look forward to your correspondence and questions. Thank you. And remember, it's not just a game, it's a sport.